Ms. Fabian? Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Lensing?
Present.
Mr. McBride? Mr. Ramirez? Mr. Riddle?
Present.
President Rodriguez?
Here, okay, we do have a quorum. Next item on the agenda, Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Thank you. Okay, we have one name on the list, Mr. Vukovic. Oh, please, oh, you're already at the podium. Oh, you beat me to it. Okay.
Going. Got things to
Thank
do.
you. Ready. You know the routine. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Board. Last week, I was in attendance for your numerous meetings, and I was just kind of dumbfounded because it almost was like being 10 years ago at Lincoln Center, hearing the words out of the superintendent's mouth that she wanted to right-size things. What has she been doing for the last 10 years? She was polling the board, trying to find out if you wanted to keep a fund balance or preserve programs. Now, Ms. Lensing and Ms. Fabian, you've been here about 3 years. Ms. Ramirez, a year. Mr. Rodriguez came back after a 5-year vacation. The one constant the entire time has been the superintendent. The board has done things based on her recommendation. Now, you look at some of the reports that are here for your budget workshop tomorrow. Look at the attendance. I heard last week people saying, well, you know, the state, we're down everywhere. Well, from 2014 to 2024, the United States of America average student population is down 2%. State of Illinois is down 10%. From 2020 to what you're estimating for this year, District 60 is down 18%. These are your numbers, your report, that tomorrow night we'll be back here to talk about that. But you've been spending money left and right based on the advice of the administration. So, you know, you've been listening to that advice and you've been doing it, but you're the volunteers and you've been following that, you know, something's got to change on that. Just can't keep saying, yes, spend, spend, spend. I've told this board, I've told the previous board, this district has seen more money in the history, in the 65-year history of this district. Even though your tax revenue are down, I not commend the previous boards for doing that, because had the money come, you guys would have been spending it because administration said we needed it, even though you now have 18% less students than you did just a few years ago. So I think you really need to be looking at the top. Do you need as many as administrators as you do now? Because they're managing less people. So let's be prudent with our tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vukovic. I got a note that Board Member Angela Ramirez would like to be called in. Is that for this open session or just for the closed session?
Yes, open session.
Open session. Can we do that? Can we get her?
Well, first we need to motion, so I motion that we allow Ms. Ramirez join virtually for, I believe, due to medical reasons.
Yes, it's my second. And second by Ms. Hannah. Motion by Ms. Lensing, second by Ms. Hannah. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Lensing?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Mr. Ramirez? Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
President Rodriguez?
Yes, motion carries. We will wait till we get her on the line. All right, thank you. We're going to move on. If you're able to.
Nick, can you just dial it in on your phone? It's going to be a short meeting, then we could dial her in the back. So we're not waiting
Pass those
because
out.
they have Dr. Hill in the back?
Do we have the spreadsheet of,
Right up. The spreadsheet, did you print that
No.
also?
they're passing it down now.
Okay.
Just hadn't got.
Okay, she's dialed in. Ms. Ramirez, can you hear me? Ms. Ramirez, this is Board President Rodriguez. Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, welcome to meeting. We've taken the vote, and you are now participating remotely. Welcome. Next
Thank
item on the agenda is discussion item, food service RFP discussion, and we're going to try to get all the questions answered, but keep it short. We have Dr. Hill waiting for us. We're supposed to be meeting with him at 6 p.m. So, Mr. Moten, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, board, president, board members, superintendent, staff, and community. So there has been some information provided to the board prior to this meeting of a confidential nature, but in order for the board to be informed on the full details of the process for the child nutrition RFP, just to remind the board, we did elect to go down this road in November of 2025. And we did work to update the RFP based on the standards of the Illinois State Board of Education in February. And that started the process for ISB approval as well as issuing the notice of RFP and going through the process. So I can give some highlights or I can leave it up to questions based on the fact that you have somebody waiting, Mr. Rodriguez.
I think you should give some overarching highlights, and then we can go here. I do want to say something. So this item was on for student achievement and in executive content. I believe there was not enough information. I do want to state in my conversations with Mr. Moulton, the state has changed how they are doing this process. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was more previously could have been shared, and now there's only certain things we can share and can't share. However, I did tell Mr. Moulton that this is going to be a board vote, and you guys need to be abreast and be able to ask questions if you have them before that vote comes back to you. And so that is why I wanted to add this time so that you are able to ask your questions. And I did ask if this was closed session because it's a contract. But speaking with our general counsel, this is an open session item, and so we have to ask questions in open session. And so on that note, I will turn it over to Mr. Moulton.
Thank you, Superintendent. So to give a brief overview to the board, we went through the RFP process for food service. We posted it for 45 calendar days. We did have 8 proposals and 2 proposals that were no bids, meaning they elected not to provide a bid. Of those 8 proposals, we went through a process where we screened the proposals with an evaluation team that was made up of a collective of individuals, 5 individuals in the district. And the grading metric and rubric is identified on page 3 of your handouts. There were 15 categories that the evaluation team reviewed based on a point scale that was out of a total of 100 points. Of those 8 proposals that were reviewed, 3 were elected to go forward as finalists in the process. A taste testing was conducted with the evaluation team, and best and final offers for the process, which means interactive process with the vendors, was conducted with the top 3. Through that, it was determined that one of those top 3 vendors was deemed non-responsive, which left us with 2, and we have the recommendation based on that process before you this evening. Notice of intent was provided to all of the vendors that submitted a bid. prior to us coming to you this evening. So all the vendors that submitted a bid are aware of the notice of intent for the selected or recommended vendor. Ms. Hannah?
Ms. Hannon.
Okay. I've said this number of times before. But I want to know, okay, we are, according to the bids and the recommendation, the people that we are getting, they're new to our district, am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and the word organic is kind of cautionary to me, because are they going to be serving that kind of food? And if that is so, what kind of food are they going to be serving our children? Okay, and my other part B to that is, I've talked also about the quality of food, and you get what you pay for. And so if we pay a lower price, we're going to get low quality. And I'm not interested in feeding our children low quality food. Okay? So I'm interested, what kind of food are they going to be serving our children?
Thank you for the question.
And didn't you say you all had a test, a taste testing or something?
Yes, ma'am, with the evaluation team.
The evaluation team, meaning adults?
Yes,
The adults ain't gonna be eating this food.
yes. So if I could provide some feedback and answer your questions, Ms. Hannah. And some of any information that may be protected under FOIA, I'm gonna ask Ms. Vanderbroek to stop me. The vendor that was given the notice of intent is Organic Life. They have been requested and provided a culturally inclusive menu options, and that was part of their taste testing. A lot of that information came from the feedback we got from students during last year, as well as the interactive process we had with the students at the high school campuses, particularly with Mr. Hamilton and Ms. Williams' office. Fresh ingredients is one of the things that they noted within their proposal, and that's one of the things that was requested. Organic Life was not the lowest priced proposal. They were one of the lowest, but they were not the lowest. So we took into effect the 15 criteria. Finances was just one of the criteria that the evaluation team analyzed to make the selection.
So who is our current food service?
Sodexo.
Okay, and they came in really low, and final evaluation score says, oh, well,
Because the board let me, I'm asking to please not share final evaluation scores or final details because the board has not taken action yet. If you have procedural type questions, I think that is fair game.
And
Okay,
you
we
are,
have two hands up, Ms. Lindsay and Ms. Fabian, who's first?
Okay, so I do appreciate taking on the task that the board asked to relook at our food services that we have in the district. When Sodexo came in and the board was included on the taste test and the process, we were essentially sold a product that once they got into our kitchens and into our schools, they were not able to sustain. and they were not able to provide the app that they had promised. So lots of frustrations there. Looking at this off the bat, I'm going to let you know I am frustrated. And the reason I'm frustrated is because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 individuals that are a part of this panel. None of them have kids in this district. None of them. That is frustrating. There's not a board member on here. There's not a parent on here. There's not a student on here. We had 2 student board members that could have been pulled in. Not a part of the process. And throughout, I feel that that has been a constant ask of the board, and I'm going to say it, especially on behalf of Ms. Fabian. So to see this as the result is extremely frustrating. So that aside, when looking at the details of this, I have concerns where it comes to the staffing plan. So what is, and I have a couple of questions, but that's my first one. So what are the expectations of the staffing plan? Because we don't have a rubric to say like, for this category, it's this up to this many points. For this category, it's up to this many points. We don't have the baseline. We just have the individual scores. But if it's deemed adequate, but not fully complete or exceeds or strong or whatever label you want to put on it, what's our plan for that? What does that mean?
Sure. If I could answer both, just to respond to your frustration as well as answer the staffing plan question. So we did ask that question regarding participation in the taste testing. We were informed and advised that board members would not be part of the taste testing because you all are ultimately making the board action. We are planning to do a taste testing with the board after the process is completed in order to avoid issues with that process with ISB, as well as to ensure, which is why we did the taste testing with the evaluation panel, to ensure what happened last time did not happen again. The process had been completed when we recommended Sodexo, and there was no taste testing prior to when they did the taste testing with the board and the students. And the same question was posed for the students being involved in the taste testing. That was the recommendation and the advisement that we were given. Evaluation team from start to finish, no changes in the evaluation panelist, as well as introduction of new panelists once we got to later stages of the process. So that question was asked for input and involvement, and that's the advisement that we received.
Can you clarify where that advisement came from?
Referrals with ISB. And we did have some advisement from our consultant as well, because they did do training with the evaluation team per the proposal that was approved in the fall. However, all the advisement ultimately came from the Illinois State Board of Education.
Okay. That's a concern with them because it's not their kids eating it. It's not their community eating it. We are signing off to say that we agree with your assessment when we have not had access to it. And it's been such a high level issue because our kids deserve food that is nutritious and something that they will eat.
Yeah.
So that's extremely frustrating.
Thank you.
Can you go
And-
on to the staffing portion?
And we did pose that.
Yeah.
For the staffing plan, so in the RFP and the exhibits, staffing as well as participation numbers and anticipation numbers for participation of student counts was provided, and the staffing model is based on that. So there's a baseline staffing plan for the schools, for the staff who are serving students as well as working in the kitchens and doing the meal preparations. And then there's above and beyond staffing plan for what I would call like their main office or their administrative staff. In one of the documents you have, which is the spreadsheet, there's a little more detail as it relates to the staffing plan for this proposal for the administrative staff, but that is associated with the grading criteria there. So they did receive
okay.
a staffing plan for the schools based on the numbers, and then the administrative staff to help support those individuals at the buildings, as
Okay.
well as to ensure that those positions were actively recruited and, staff were filling positions as opposed to staffing positions remaining vacant or relying on substitute staff members.
Okay. My next question ties back to the infrastructure, right? Because under Sodexo, again, sold a product, but when they got into our infrastructure, we only have kitchens in our high school and middle schools. So how are we going, do these companies have access to what our infrastructure looks like? Meaning, do they know our elementary schools don't have kitchens? And are they able to sustain quality food provided to our elementary school kids?
Yes. So another difference in the process this time is they were able to see and get access to our school locations to know and be fully responsive to the proposal they were providing a response to.
Okay, so there's no concerns with their ability to give high-quality food to our youngest population?
No concerns. They were given that access. They were fully aware and provided the information for all of the buildings. We also provided photos, provided access to the sites. Again, the timing based on when the proposal or the RFP was approved by ISB and we went through that process was not necessarily ideal, and I'll be transparent with that. But Ms. Williams did provide the access, the photographs, in order for them to see the sites that they would be providing a response to within the proposal. So there were no surprises after they got awarded the bid or any vendor got awarded the bid, and they state, we thought we were getting something, we got something different, and now we can't provide what we promised.
Okay, I'm going to make one more statement, and then I'm going to be quiet because I know we have to keep it moving. When we do have the final contract, I definitely want to make sure there's some language in there that if their service is not meeting our baseline standards or what they presented in the taste test or in their proposals to bid for our clientele, essentially, our money, then we need to be receiving funds back for them or some sort of compensation. Because I do not want to re-enter another Sodexo situation, which they have done good things and worked with our food and transportation department, such as like the break meals, et cetera. So I want to see those types of things continue. So I do thank Sodexo for that, but I don't want any continuing pitfalls.
Okay, we have Ms. Fabian and Mr. Riddle. I'll let you both have a chance to speak, and then we have to go into closed session.
Ms. Lansing stated a lot of my concerns. I too am very frustrated that we didn't get a lot of information. Even without having the scores, you call this a rubric, but I don't see the rubric. Like, what constitutes adequate? What constitutes, meets or strong? The descriptors that are in this are so vague, and all we're seeing is a score, but we're not seeing the descriptors to see, okay, this is what gets a 10 points versus a 1 point, right? And so the scores really, it's hard to tell how well or not they did, because the descriptors don't really tell us much of anything. And that's on all of them. And so without having the descriptors and even looking at what you've provided for what they're offering, there were questions that I posed in my email that still have yet to be answered because those details are not in this rubric. They're not in the proposal at all. So I'm still frustrated because those questions were sent a week ago and we still don't have any answers. The other thing that I'm frustrated about, and Ms. Lansing pointed out, your committee members, you've got, representation from admin at different levels. I would have liked to see, obviously, a parent, students, community member, but you also, well, I should say we also, as a district, have staff. From my understanding, we still have 2 permanent staff that are working in our buildings in the nutrition department that should have also been a part of all of this, because they're the most qualified. They're in there day in, day out in their kitchens to know what vendor can really serve our schools to what degree. So I would have liked to see those staff on there too. The other thing that I'm looking at is making sure that that taste test had a fair representation of all the different types of packaging of meals that we have. Again, Ms. Lansing alluded to it. We have young students that those buildings don't have kitchens. So did the taste testers have a chance to see what the elementary school kids are eating or what's being presented to them versus middle and high school, where we know that middle and high school have their kitchens and they tend to have, they can do the from scratch cooking versus the elementary. Because that has been the biggest complaint and issue, is the wastefulness at the elementary level. Stuff isn't getting reheated correctly, or it's, just not packaged in an appetizing way for little ones to be able to eat. Exactly, and just the wastefulness of it all, right? So I don't see any of that in here either. Again, without having a rubric and more details, I feel like a lot of things are missing. The other part of when we talk about cultural foods, did we have representation from the cultural foods, from the student populations that we have, right? If they're saying, yes, we can make, Hispanic foods, we can make Arabic foods, we can make Malayalam foods, because we know we have a huge Indian population coming in. Did we African American food, right? Did we have adequate representation, and did we see that in those taste tests that they can actually meet those needs? Because that's been another concern. So I just am really frustrated with the whole process, because I think we've been talking about this for a year, including with our student board members who did a lot of, surveying the fellow students, and they've been raising their specific concerns. We've been saying specifically what we want, and none of those things have been addressed. So again, I'm just really frustrated because I don't feel comfortable signing off on a contract when we have no information on the concerns that we have specifically called out. And I don't want to call them out here because that'll give away a lot of the evaluation process of what's in here. So I will resend the email. I know I also forgot one of Mr. Riddle's requests where he was also looking at packaging and recyclability and all of that. And I don't know if that was taken into account either. But
So if I could just, for a minute, I believe the actual scoring rubric is in the public RFP because we have to provide the
Okay.
points
Thank you for clarifying.
by which each category, what the maximum points are. And to the best of my recollection, don't hold this to me, I think they have a definition in there as
Right.
well. I may have seen that. So that would be the source for that we can email out to you. And I do also just want to reiterate, once the RFP goes and it is set, that is what they must evaluate.
Makes sense.
So in terms of when comments and questions were presented would make a difference as to whether it could be modified and brought forward as the RFP progressed. So please
I
keep
mean,
that in
we
mind.
gave all of those concerns several times throughout the year, and the year prior. And so that's my frustration, is we've been harping on the same
Superintendent.
points.
So Ms. Fabian, I want to be in complete agreement with you, and that is a question that I did pose to Mr. Moulton at the conclusion of this. And I want to be very transparent here. I did state that the board has made a number of requests over time during board meetings, and was all that taken into account when we were looking for a new food vendor? And Mr. Moulton assured me that they were, because he included them in the specifications of the RFP. And I'm not missing words because you did say specifications, but can you touch on that more so that the board can feel more assured about that?
Yes.
But I do want you all to know, I did ask that question.
And you were presenting an RFP, and I'm speaking of this in general. Before RFPs are sent out, don't you think it would behoove you to bring it to the board so that we could see it before it is put out for the vendors and so forth, so that if it's not what we are expecting, we can make changes or suggestions at that time instead of going after the fact.
I'm going to let Mr. Riddle make his comments, and Mr. Moulton, if you can wrap it up, please.
Can he answer that? Because I
Okay,
think
go
it's
ahead.
very important about the specification and exactly what Ms. Hannah said. So can you touch on that right away? Because you gave me an answer on that.
Yes. So in February, the draft RFP was provided in public session for review prior to us sending it to ISB. I believe the date was February 10th, but February.
So you're saying you presented that to the board on February 10th? Okay. And then the next question is, based off the previous, we'll say year and a half to 2 years, you've heard the board ask or concerns, did you include those in the specification?
So those items were, and I wanna state this, because this has been a very complex process, but all of the items that have been discussed previously within the last year and a half, we did incorporate those items. The specificity of them was in order to allow the vendors to provide a response. So for example, there was a mention of an app. So the use of technology is a general how it was proposed in the RFP, because with our current vendor, they presented an app to the board after a contract was awarded, and it was not part of that RFP process. They would deem that over-responsive. If somebody provides information that's over-responsive to the RFP specifications, then it does not go into the evaluation process. So there's a lot of nuances with this, but use of technology was one of them. Culturally relevant food, the taste testing included what they would serve at each grade level. Hispanic culturally relevant food, because that was the feedback we got from the students and the board. However, monthly taste testing with students is also something that's included in there. And again, taste testing at each level, which goes to the packaging question. We wanted to ensure that we had representation at each level as part of the evaluation team, which is why you have representation from pre-K to 12. And we also wanted to ensure, based on recommendations that we received, that the evaluation team was not biased. So to have an evaluation team of a majority of individuals that work with the food service program could potentially lead to a potential bias, as opposed to the individuals that are specifically working in the building. So again, maybe not perfect, but that was the advisement that we received, and we tried to have that diversity and representation. Interactive culinary events, student satisfaction surveys, monthly, minimum monthly, more immediate response times when there's an issue or a concern. And I'm not gonna get into the specifics of what they replied, but that was a weighted criteria of evaluation, as well as their staffing plan and staffing model for their administrative team. Scratch cooking, locally sourced food, fresh food, that's all information that was provided in their proposal in response to some of the feedback that we've heard over the course of time. So there are other things, but those were some of the main things that we touched on, and we wanted to ensure were incorporated and were look-fors, I would call them, when the evaluation team looked at the proposals.
And
Thank you, Mr. Riddle. Mr. Riddle, please.
Okay, thank you. Just have a couple questions. I remember this company as being one that our former board member, Adriana, had done some research on. Remember that? And she was
I added
quite
that.
impressed with
I
them.
added that in my,
And they are a local company. They were founded by a chef named Jonas Falk in 2005. Their whole concept is locally sourced food, fresh food. It's one that the public definitely buys into, and one of their biggest areas that they service is the K through 12 school industry in the Midwest. And I'm wondering if, two questions. One, if we did any surveying of local schools that use this vendor, what their satisfaction rate is, what kind of problems they've had. When I query AI, it says local parents and employees and schools really like what they put out as far as what they do, but on the actual evaluation, it's generally mixed to poor, and their real world execution frequently falls short. That's what AI just told me. I just looked it up. But that doesn't mean that's, so my question is, did we actually talk to any school districts? My second question is, we hired a vendor and paid a lot of money for a vendor to help us with our food service. Did that vendor help us in any way in the selection process of this particular company?
So we did do some reference checks. We did reference checks of all the vendors that were finalists. One of the references is, I would consider them local in Lake County. Positive things to say. Some districts, for all the vendors, either didn't provide a response or weren't available, but the ones that did provided positive feedback. Even throughout transitions of their, what we call general managers, which is the point person between the food service company and the district. Sometimes when there's a change in leadership, quality responsiveness may fluctuate, but in this particular case, we saw some consistent feedback, even with changes in local management for the team. And I apologize. Your second
What was the other
question?
one was basically, did our consultant that we have?
Yes.
Did they help us in the selection process and give us some ideas? Did they actually, were they involved in this selection in any way or helping us make the transition to a new vendor?
So the consultant that we worked with did help us verify information in our exhibits for our proposal, but their main focus and support came in the taste testing phase as a facilitator, as well as ensuring that the employees who were evaluators on the evaluation team had the proper training and knew how to vet the proposals.
Okay,
So they did not provide the recommendation to the district, but they did help guide those portions of the process so that we had some continuity and we could help ensure that the process that we did from start to finish gave us the best proposal.
and
that we
can
could
could you tell me how much extra we're paying for this vendor versus the lowest cost vendor that was, were we gonna, are we paying like 10% more?
I would please hold that
Hold that?
information
Okay,
at this time.
okay, all right,
But I
okay.
got a very important question. What about our students with special diet needs? Has that been, was that a part of the RFP process?
Yeah, so in our exhibits, so our exhibits were about 140 pages. I can say that was in the public document. All of the information as it relates to our students over a certain time period, meal counts, at the different age levels, special needs, dietary restrictions, things like that, were included in those exhibits. There was a lot of information, as well as after-school snacks, things of that nature. So their proposal is in response to that. One of the things that has been extremely helpful throughout this process, as well as the audit that was performed earlier in the school year, is how we audit internally and enforce contract compliance from day one. So again, we have up to 5 years on the agreement, but it's 1-year renewals as part of this proposal in the CEP process. So information sharing with the board, how our team internally, as well as support from our consultant, if we continue that relationship. But there's been good training provided to Ms. Williams and her team, as well as myself, on how we manage that auditing, not just from a participation standpoint, but the contract compliance. There's a lot within these contracts. We have marketing, we have advertising, we have a lot of this. Fulfillment of staffing plan. To make sure that the reports we receive are accurate, we can follow up more frequently, and then in turn share that information with the board, so that, to the point that Ms. Fabian made earlier, if, we'll be able to see very quickly if we're not getting what we paid for, so to speak. So, again, it's 1 year. Our consultant did tell us as part of the audit process that we want to build a foundation. Part of it's due to infrastructure, part of it's due to ensuring that we're being as responsive as possible to our student needs and requests. So building the infrastructure and building that baseline can take time, 2 to 3 years. So we don't want to do something and then 2 months later decide it's not working. We're partners in this. However, we do have to ensure that what we're getting in the proposal is what we're getting in reality, effective August 17th, the first day that the kids arrive. And we do have some guidance and mechanisms to do that as we move forward.
Okay, we're gonna have to move forward. We're going way longer than I expected to. I'd like to ask thank you, Mr. Moten. Thank you for all the information.
Thank you.
Everybody's had a chance to comment and ask questions. And now I'd like to ask for a motion to move into closed session for the purpose of discussing matters that fall under the following category, which is an exception to the Illinois Open Meetings Act, self-assessment, exception C16, self-evaluation practices and procedures, or professional ethics.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Lenzing. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah? Ms. Lenzing?
Yes.
Mr. McBride? Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
President Rodriguez?
Yes, motion carries. We are now in closed session. Thank you, Mr. Moten.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So are we